In the previous episode, part 1, the prison release, we saw Jack as he was released from prison after 15 years at hard labour for a crime he did not commit, and he went home to his family in the foothills of the Blue Mountains in St. Mary, Jamaica, West Indies. Part 2 is the continued vigilante crime story, laced with revenge, love, and vigilantism. This second episode will show Jack on the warpath hunting his father's killers, and after finding them, they receive the ultimate punishment, and after burial they are blown to smithereens. Watch until the end, and enjoy another episode of the Jamaican Vigilante killer at his best. Now the nearer Jack gets to the man who ordered the killing of his father, the closer he gets to the edge, and to the truth about the organizational structure and the culture of the Jamaican underworld drug syndicate. And so our story continues. The following morning, the day after Jack got home from prison, and after a hearty and delicious breakfast of fried dumplings, ackee, and saltfish with tasty seasoning, along with hot chocolate tea, prepared by his dear and loving mother, Jack went to rest in the hammock, tied to the mango tree at the north side of the house, right in front of the back door, where it was cool and shady. He fell asleep for about half an hour right there in the hammock. After he woke up, he remembered that he had a plastic computer chip intricately sewn into his cloth belt with delicate information that will assist him with his job of elimination. And so, he retrieved it carefully and used his nephew's computer and read the coded messages from his friend Michael in prison. That plastic computer chip embedded in his cloth belt had various instructions on how to find money and guns in his house for his mission, but he had to visit his friend's house to get the necessary supplies. His friend's aunt was there to show him the path downstairs to the secret room. Downstairs, but she has no way of getting into the room. At 7:30 a.m., the house phone rang. His sister answered it and gave it to him. Indeed, it was Donna's mother calling him to inform him secretly, without Donna's knowledge, that she is leaving for Kingston to do some business. So therefore, it would be nice and pleasant to spend the day with Donna, as she would be by herself at the house. Jack realized that Mother Alice was setting the stage for him to have some intimate time with her daughter. Jack repeated his thank you to Mother Alice excitedly 3 times, as he could also hear the excitement in Donna's mother's voice as well. "You are welcome, Jack. But don't tell Donna that I called you about her being alone." Jack called Donna immediately and advised her that he was on his way to visiting her, without disclosing the trust Mother Alice had placed upon him. He took a quick bath at the cool spring water hole near the family's house, brushed his teeth, and went back into his house to get dressed for his trip to see Donna, his little Donna. After a few minutes a bus came, and Jack got on. Then Jack started smiling to himself, because he had a flashback about his father and his loving ways. And he also had a fleeting flash of memory recollection, as he recalls the last time his father took the family in his Hayase Toyota bus that could carry the whole family on their regular Sunday sightseeing tour and picnic to various parts of Jamaica. The memory of that last sightseeing tour brought back bright and loving family memories to his mind. He remembered the tourist attraction rock known as Pim Rock, which is a female-looking body part historical rock formation cut out without hands, in the waterway on the Rio Cobra River between Bogwalk and Spanish Town in St. Catherine in Jamaica, West Indies. That fleeting thought brought a genuine smile to Jack's face, as he mused to himself, "True indeed, no place, no better and sweeter than Yard." Suddenly Jack shouted, "Oh my goodness, I am getting old." In a frozen moment he held onto his seat, and his mind stuck in time as he thought quietly, "The bus driver yesterday, he was Toney. My memory is finally kicking in." Jack smiled. Yes, he was the one who had fired the least amount of shots, but boy, your days are numbered. Jack said quietly while smiling to himself. Now the pieces are finally falling into place in Jack's mind. Jack realized that to perform a clean sweep and a surgical hit on the killers, he had to study his potential victims' ways, habits, and psychological footprints to achieve his intended goals, and that was exactly what he would do. This pressing revenge business could wait another day or two, because at least he had a foothold on the start of his mission, even though his mission was weighing heavily on his mind and heart, and his vigilante blood was boiling in his body. But today Donna was his priority, and Toney Weatherspoon could linger in life a little longer. Now, not every hero makes it into textbooks, but Jack will. Meanwhile, he would understudy his target subject, method, source, and even honey trap if necessary. Maybe, just maybe, Jack realized that the line between success and failure is a very thin line, but it is a line that must be attempted without fear or psychological pressure to overcome and ensure success. When Jack reached the stop to Donna's house, he got off and walked up the path to her house while looking around at his surroundings like a king surveying his kingdom. And there she sat, among the orange plants and flower garden on a swing seat waiting, just waiting. Jack reached out and hugged her and sat at the other end of the seat. But Donna said lovingly, "You can sit next to me, I will not bite you." He shuffles down on the seat and sat next to her, holding her hands and looking at her and admiring her beauty and demeanor with a calm, quizzical look like a calm lake at midnight. Now, he was not going to force his hand, but rather he would utilize his social and ethical gymnastics while inching his way back fully into her heart. Jack was aware of the fact that he must not try to command love, and it must not be won by force, pressure, or authority after all those years. But love must only be won by love and awakened by deep affection from Donna. And that is the reality of true love. And truly indeed, they were both in love. They went inside the house, and Jack sat on a sofa while Donna got 2 glasses of cool and refreshing soursop juice. Then Donna said to Jack,
"Oh, Jack! By the way, I have a surprise for you. Guess what?"
Sorry, darling, I can't guess what it is because I try not to join the guessing game fan club.
Hi, Kay! I'll tell you, I am still a virgin at 29 years of age. Yes.
You mean you have been waiting for me these 15 years?
The call? Yes, darling. I have been waiting for you. I have saved it all because of my love for you.
Yes. Woo! Me feel like a 7-day-old ram goat kid.
I am glad to know that I love you.
Yes, man. Me love you too. Me love you too.
Then Jack said, "Donna, I too have something to tell you. I am also a virgin. You were always on my mind. My Donna, my Donna, my little Donna," Jack assured her. Then Donna said to Jack, "Jack, my love, come let us take a shower together, and then I will give you a grand tour of my body." Jack responded, "Let's go, my love. I am ready like Freddy." And as Donna took hold of Jack's hand and led him to the bathroom, Donna added, "And Jack, with your fertile, imaginative, and alert mind, I am sure you know what I want to do to you?" Jack, with his body shaking and excited, smiled, hugged Donna, and responded, "Absolutely, after waiting all these years, we can do some exploration on each other. Nice, wonderfully nice. And thank you for waiting." After bathing, they went into Donna's bedroom. Donna then dropped the white towel that was wrapped around her, sat on her bed and said, "Jack, I know that you've been wanting some of this for many years now, and now it's yours. Come and get it." The total youthful beauty and mellow-toned smoothness of Donna's body excited Jack. Donna's figure was firm, with her breasts standing straight out with sexy big black nipples. Her lips were so soft, her face so fair, and her bosom so delicately ample and satisfying to look at. And as she stared at Jack's aroused manhood that she had envisioned these several years, pulling him down on top of her on the bed, as she caressed his penis and guided him to the wet and wild entrance of her vagina, he entered her with cautionary measures, remembering that it was their first time ever. They were both virgins. As he extended and expanded himself deep inside her, she was moaning, groaning, and screaming with delightful pleasure. Indeed, Jack was salivating like Pavlov's dog, while Donna was panting and breathing like a female dog in heat. But as Donna elevated her body to a higher degree of ecstatic satisfaction, she flexed and contracted the inner muscles of her strong, sexy body. Jack tried mightily to resist the tantalizing vaginal squeezing pressures. He had heard about this sexual experience from his inmates in prison, but now he was actually experiencing it for himself. This erotic internal muscle movement of a woman's body creates total satisfaction in a man. Also, Donna's total sexual experience was fascinatingly and delightfully enveloped. When her clitoris was touched by Jack's penis, she came instantly. But, as Jack started his downward plunged and back and forth movement, she started her multiple orgasm progression with delightful moaning, groaning, and screaming. And thus, with a release of total pleasure, Jack also let go of all the built-up sperm inside his body into her wet and waiting sweetness. After several minutes of enduring pain and pleasure, their virtual sexual satisfaction was totally fulfilled, and with an outburst in unison of, "Oh God, that was good and exciting," then Jack added, "Baby, your wonderful sense of rhythmic movements has heightened my motor coordination and hastened my hormone release. I needed that, so let the chips fall where they may," he said as he moved toward her. "Thank you very much." Afterwards they lay silently, breathing deeply, hugging tightly, and kissing passionately, like a pair of foxes in a dry foxhole. Ironically, Jack wanted to sleep because of the postcoital after-sex syndrome, due to the blood rush after climax that depletes a man's muscles of energy-producing glycogen, leaving him feeling physically drained, and, in Jack's case, he was really drained, being the first time for him at 30 years old. Moreover, although his physical and emotional stability was above par, yet the gamma-aminobutyric acid and the endorphins which were released in his sperm had a calming effect on him, along with the oxytocin and prolactin. Because, naturally, humans are the only animals in which sleep and sex are linked. However, there are scientific, emotional, physical, and spiritual reasons why men feel tired and sometimes fall asleep after sex. Because the creator of man foresaw that man would kill himself trying to prove how brutish, macho, and how much stallion stamina he has, so he spiced up the sperm with the necessary ingredients to calm him down after each sexual encounter. Then Jack kissed her again and remarked, "Donna, I love you." "I love you too, Jack," Donna replied. Jack then mussed to himself, "One of the greatest things in the world is a woman's love, so never disappoint her." Then she drew nearer to him and cuddled up closer like chickens under their mother's wings. Then they both fell asleep. After waking up at 1 p.m., Donna informed Jack that they were going to Port Maria because she has another surprise for him. They rode a bus into Port Maria, and Donna went into the bank and withdrew $30,000 and gave it to Jack as a welcome home gift. Then she took him to KFC and ordered 2 original orders of fried chicken and orange juice for their lunch, and 1 for Donna's mother. But by golly, the surprise was not over yet. They walked to the car rental office. She rented a black Toyota Corolla hatchback car for 3 weeks for Jack. But Jack ensured that it was rented in Donna's name to avoid any digital footprints of himself. The sales lady also informed them that after that rental is over, that self-same car would be on sale. Therefore, if they would like, she could put down their names on a pre-purchase agreement for a special price. But they declined the offer. Further, during their visits to Port Maria, Jack also bought 4 strands of strong slingshot rubber because as a boy he was an expert in bird shooting in the backlands of the Blue Mountain Range. And he decided that maybe, just maybe, his skills with the simple slingshot may be redirected to assist with his human hunting efforts. Jack would make a defensive slingshot weapon to create distraction and get an edge over his enemies. This simple killer tool with a round riverstone could travel about 200 feet in seconds, and a person could be attacked without being aware of what hit him or her. Jack also bought 2 SIM cards from a roadside vendor that could be used and discarded when necessary. Then Jack got inquisitive and inquired of Donna, "Donna, would you like to inform me about your abundance of cash?" Donna responded, "Sure, honey." And so, Donna unfolded on Jack the secret of her bank account as she told the story to him about her father, who, after working at a bank in Kingston as a security guard for many years, was involved in a bank robbery. The 3 armed robbers who came into the bank were killed during the gunfight with the bank's armed personnel, and a bullet ricocheted from the marble counter, hit her father in his head, and he died during surgery. The other 2 accomplices in the getaway car, in their mad rush to escape, ran into a parked garbage truck, and the car exploded, and they were burned to death. However, words on the street were that someone from Mr. Big's organization had leaked information about the upcoming robbery to the bank, and many armed guards were waiting to eat their food when the robbers came into the bank. The bank settled with her family for millions of US dollars. Donna went to the University of the West Indies and majored in banking, while her brother Steve studied at Columbia University in New York as a doctor. Steve was now on his final year of service at a hospital in New York City, and he will be returning to Jamaica to take up residency at Kingston Public Hospital within 7 months. Then Donna added, "That's my story, and I will stick to it." While in prison, Jack had heard that her father had died, but he was not sure how he died. They drove the rental car back to Broadgate to drop Donna off, and then Jack drove the car to his house in Devon Pen, after spending an hour with Donna and her mother, who was back from Kingston, who had gone to buy bags of chicken feed. After dropping Donna off, he realized that it was too late to drive to Harbour View in Kingston to visit Michael's home to get the necessary supplies. Therefore, he would visit Michael's aunt the following morning, and so he called her and told her that he would be there early the following morning. Early the following morning, the 22nd of December 2010, Jack used the instruction given to him and found the house where Michael's aunt was waiting for him. The coded messages were clear as crystal to him, so he found the guns, cash, gas mask and explosives that may come in handy in his line of vigilantism, along with several vials of deadly liquids and explosives with timers and other newfangled gadgets and handheld equipment. His duffel bag was then topped off with thousands of Jamaican and American dollars, 2 short-handle Magnums guns and 2 M16 American-made weapons, and 2 sets of shortwave radio communication systems. So, now, if the road to success is already paved with the necessary tools for the trade, why waste time laying bricks? Actually, his quivers were now full and running over, and his financial and military-style needs were met. After reaching back home, he hid the supplies in one of the dog sheds that was not being used. He locked it, parked the car in the big yard, and headed to the bus stop further up the street from his road entrance. It was now about 9:30 a.m. when he got back home. The bus that Toney drove usually makes about 2 trips each day, so Jack wanted to make hay while the sun shine, as Jamaicans would say. Indeed, Jack was a vigilante, not a politician, not a police officer or a soldier, and his rules of engagement were far different from the written rules. He was in the strict elimination business, and he will not be governed by rules. There will be no second chance to say, "I am sorry," or to say the devil made me do it. If you start that fire or started walking down the road on Evil Avenue or Drug Street, your goose will be cooked on Elimination Boulevard by the long arms of Jack, who was not subjected to the whims of the law. Michael had already set the wheels in motion for his mission, and Jack was now a self-unauthorized shadow correction officer, rooting out the worst of the worst from the Jamaican society, and Jack's calm and purposeful posture will give evidence of that claim. Jack took the bus that was driven by Toney from Kingston to Anato Bay and back for the other trip, in order to study the personality, character, and habits of the bus driver Toney Weatherspoon. Toney and Tommy were known as the Tivoli Gardens twin because they always worked together on killing assignments. On the following day, which was the second day on the bus, as the bus was on its return trip through the community of Golden Springs, on the Junction Roadway, 4 loosely clad boys, with their pants hanging below their buttocks, took the bus from that point in St. Andrew, in Golden Springs. As the boys came on the bus, they mockingly said to the driver Toney, "Hello, Mas Coco Titi." After calling him Coco Titi several times, as a group of young boys usually would do, Toney was rather upset, troubled, offended, disturb, fuming, and furious. In Jamaica, nicknames are always unacceptable to many of the name carriers. However, most people get used to the name calling and ignore it, while some seem not to forget the nickname when they are reminded of their so-called nicknames. Realizing that Coco Titi in Spanish means small penis, Jack reasoned that his Spanish course in prison was now paying off. And so, Coco Titi stopped the bus and demanded that the boys get off as he grabbed a machete from beside the driver's seat. Jack, who is also an opportunistic person, seized the moment and stepped into the situation. "Gentlemen," Jack said, "I believe you are upsetting the bus driver and the passengers as well. I would like to suggest that you come off the bus right this minute, or else I will have no other alternative but to whip your assess and throw you all off the bus." The four boys took a good look at the height and size of Jack and decided that they would not tangle him. They then all bolted like rabbits running from wolves. After realizing that death comes to everyone, sooner or later, and anyone who hurry it up is a stupid and crazy person, the boys complied and left the bus, while putting up and pointing their right middle fingers toward the bus. This was one up on Toney for Jack. Toney now sees Jack as his newest best friend. When Toney got back in the driver's seat, Jack injected, "You seem to be a church person. Where do you attend church?" "I am actually looking for a church to call my own," Jack reasoned. Excited by the help from this stranger, and now there was an opportunity to witness to him about Christianity in the same package, Toney was rather elated. Jack had noted that Toney was always playing gospel songs for his passengers. "Oh yes, I am a Christian, and I attend the Pentecostal church in Port Maria. I am there every Sunday, all day, and sometimes on Wednesday nights as well." "Really, I would love to visit with you one Sunday," Jack added. "Truth be told," Toney remarked, "as a matter of fact, this Sunday is a special day at church. We will be celebrating Community Guest Day, which is a special day for our visitors from all communities. Maybe you would like to come on Sunday?" Without hesitation or giving Toney a chance to change his mind, Jack added, "Certainly, indeed, I would love to. But tell me, are there any nice girls there in your church?" "Oh, yes, several," added Toney vibrantly. "Brilliant," Jack softly added. "I will be there. But how can I find your church?" "Take my number and call me, and I will give you all the necessary information," insisted Toney. Jack took Toney's number, but did not give Toney his number. Jack did not converse with Toney again until he reached his stop. Then, as he was stepping down the steps of the bus a mile from his stop, he smiled and said, "Take care, my friend, and see you in church on Sunday." Toney became a Pentecostal after he left the employment of Mr. Biggs, but he actually did not leave Mr. Biggs' syndicate, because most of the buses on this and many other routes belonged to Mr. Biggs. He was only demoted from a hitman status to a bus driver, but he was still part and parcel of the syndicate. The following day, Jack bought curry goat lunch for Donna and her mother and drove the rental car, visited and spent the day with her. Jack visited church with Toney that Sunday and had a good time. He sang, clapped and prayed as any pretentious believer would do. Jack gave Toney one of the untraceable or disposable cell phone numbers. The following Sunday, Jack also visited Toney's church to show an enmeshment and bonding with Toney. With Toney now in possession of Jack's phone number, the following Monday, Toney called Jack and asked him if he would like to visit him that Wednesday night at his home there in the outskirt of Port Maria. Jack was excited and said yes, how about 8 p.m. The time was agreed on by Toney before hanging up his phone. However, Toney still had the mental syndication of not telling people about his business. He was clever, arrogant, and yet conceited. But nevertheless, two smart will fall down dead at one smart doorway. Toney was living in Port Maria Heights, in St. Mary, in a house that Mr. Biggs had bought for him from a man who had owed him financial remuneration, but could not repay. Before Jack left home, he went to the outhouse and selected various items that he thought would aid him in his first task. Including in those selections was a small bottle of full-strength cyanide. Jack got to the house at 7:30 p.m. He drove past the house, stopped, parked, and looked for an hour to see if there is anybody else going or coming into the house. It was 8:30 p.m. He went to the door, but he had deliberately wasted time for his own purpose. Then He knocked on the front door of Toney's house. As Toney came to the door, Jack said, "Sorry to be late." Toney had assured Jack that he would not be going to the Wednesday night prayer meeting at the church. Toney opened the door and welcomed Jack into his home. Jack looked around to ensure that they were alone. Toney, sensing the interest of Jack's gaze, assured him that no one else was there. Jack felt a sense of relief. The house was a modern but moderately priced home with beautiful furniture, interior wallpaper, and other beautiful personal effects, a house that was not purchased by driving a bus. Jack accepted a seat across from Toney, on the smaller sofa, and the man who was sitting across from him was one of his father's killers. After sitting down and making small talk about church and Christianity, and as fate would have it, Toney's house phone rang. "Hello, yes, this is Toney. May I help you?" "Okay, the office. Hello, Angela." Immediately, Jack remembered that sometimes opportunity comes but once. And so he seized the moment and asked Toney if he had any beer, even though Toney was on the telephone, and of course, he himself did not drink. Toney, who did not want the person on the other line to hear him, used body language to show Jack the way to the kitchen and the fridge, where he would find an assortment of wine, red stripe beer, Malta drink, liquor, Magnum, sodas, and other drinks. According to the telephone interaction, it would appear as if the bus company was calling to make arrangement for Toney to go on an excursion to Negril with a group of church folks from Anato Bay. Toney sat back down in the soft leather sofa in the living room and talked, and talked, and talked. He was quite composed and confident as a member of the syndicate. Acting in the interest of time, Jack pulled a Guinness stout and a Malta from the refrigerator and opened them with a can opener he saw on the kitchen sink. Looking over his shoulder, Jack saw Toney still sitting down talking on the telephone, and so he poured a good portion of cyanide into the Guinness stout and carried them into the living room. As he sat down, he placed the Malta in front of Toney, and the Guinness stout he placed in front of himself. Toney, who was a selfish, self-centered, egotistical person, took the Guinness stout from before Jack and placed it before himself, and placed the Malta in front of Jack. Jack's psychoanalyzing process worked like a charm. His work was made very easy for him by his victim, his first victim. Instantly, Jack picked up the Malta and took a sip from the bottle, just in case Toney had a change of heart about the drink. Toney then took up the stout and said, "Cheers to our new friendship, and again welcome to my humble home." As Toney Weatherspoon took the first long gulp of the cold drink, one could see that he was one with his alcoholic beverage. Instantly, his eyes started to show signs of intestinal discomfort and poisoning as he swallowed. In the flash of an instant, the poison started its deadly voyage through the sea of terror in Toney's stomach. His bloodstream was being overwhelmed by this deadly concoction. The poison was having, as it were, a ripple effect on his cardiovascular, his nervous, and his respiratory systems, all at the same time. Toney was now looking steadfastly and astonishingly at Jack. "What have you done to my drink?" Smiling slyly, Jack responded cheerfully, "Well, I have done nothing to your drink, actually. That was my drink. But because you are such a selfish and arrogant animal, who didn't think that I should drink the big drink, you took it for yourself." Toney then looked at Jack in disbelief, trying to understand his friend's action and trying to figure out the reason. "But I thought you were my friend. And if that's how you treat your friend, I would hate to see how you treat your enemy," Toney murmured. "Sorry, pal. I have no friends. Only a friend knows the other friend's secret, and only he will reveal it." Slowly, Jack continued. "You see, Toney, your actions have reached a critical mass, and it is about to explode into oblivion, where the fragmentation of your body parts will be unrecognizable after you have exploded. But I have good news for you. It will not be today. Rather, it will be later, at your funeral. Now tell me, are you afraid of death? And if you are afraid, why are you afraid? Why are you afraid to die after killing so many people?" Toney swiftly answered, "Of course I am afraid to die." But, Jack reasoned with him, "so tell me, Don't you think those many people you killed, especially my father, was afraid?" "I did not kill your father. Who the hell is your father anyhow?" Toney inquired. "Actually," Jack continued, "you are now poisoned, because you killed my father 15 years, 2 months, 17 days, 7 hours," Jack looked at his watch, 5 minutes and 14 seconds ago. As the poison rushed through Toney's bloodstream, he moaningly responded, "Who, me? I think you are mistaken. I am a Christian, and you are flying in the face of an innocent man. It wasn't me." Jack responded, "Christian, my foot. Last Sunday, I saw you kissing a 13-year-old girl at the back of the church. What's her name? Betty and Brown. Do you remember that she slapped you in the face and you lied to her mother about your action?" "And how do you know that, Jack?" was Toney's question. "Brother, I am your worst nightmare. I have been watching your every movement and action for the past 4 weeks, and I know much more about you and your evil ways than you can imagine." Sensing the imminent demise of Toney, Jack added, "Mistaken? Hell no, I am not mistaken. And by the way, my real name is Jack Collinwood, and you and your evil friend Tommy killed my father in cold blood, and I went to prison for you. Every action demands a reasonable reaction. You acted, and I am reacting. You were the one who fired the least amount of shots into his heart. I was in the house hiding more than 15 years ago when you killed him." But we searched the house and did not see anyone," Toney replied. "That's right," Jack insisted. "But I was there, and now you have to pay for your crimes. But before I shoot you in the heart like you did to my father, tell me, where can I find Tommy, your partner in crime?" "I don't know where he is living, but somewhere in Spanish Town or Portmore," Toney muttered. "Remember now that you are dying, so die with some dignity, and why should you alone pay for that crime? Tell me what I want to know before you die," Jack asked Toney. Toney then enlightened Jack. "He is also driving a bus like mine, with the same colors from Spanish Town to Kingston. His bus number is 63, and his name is Tommy Ebanks." "Thank you. You have done very well, you empty, baseless assassin," Jack reasoned. "Now, make your peace with your God." Jack closed his eyes for a moment as he squeezed the trigger and pumped 3 bullets into Toney's left breast, with the silencer on Susie, the white handle weapon. Then Jack muttered to himself, "Toney, I came here to kill you, or to be killed trying, or to walk away. That is my code. But you see, Toney, sometimes one just can't walk away, and I always finish the job I started. Remember that sometimes things that are worth living for are worth dying for as well." Jack then concluded, "Goodbye, my friend, and thank you for the drink." Then Jack took another sip from the Malta, wiped off everything in the house that he had touched with an alcohol-based sub, and walked out through the door into the night with the Malta bottle in his hand. His heart was racing with excitement to know that he had finally started his cleaning operation. On the street outside, most of the streetlights were out. He again wiped the Malta bottle clean before discarding it into the bushes. Jack walked at a moderate pace on the back road for half a mile to his car that was parked on a dead-end street. Before he went home, he stopped at a rum bar 2 miles from his house and had a drink with some rumheads who were drinking there. He had to have an alibi just in case. After about an hour, Jack threw his hands up in the air and said, "Gentlemen, I am tired. I am going home." It was 10:59 p.m. when Jack opened the front door of his house. After Toney did not answer his telephone the following morning for due work, the bus company sent someone over to investigate why he was not answering and found out that he was dead. His house was ransacked as if it was a robbery gone sour, but Jack did not do it. The police were summoned and his body moved to the morgue. The following week, Jack went to seek and to find Tommy, who lives in Portmore, Spanish Town, and plies the bus route from Spanish Town to Kingston. Although they were far removed from their top-tier killing position in the Biggs enterprise because of their mistake killings that happened twice, yet they were still part and parcel of the Biggs organization because those buses belonged to Mr. Biggs. Due to the suspicious nature of Toney's death, An autopsy was ordered by the medical examiner before his body was released 2 weeks later. It was Sunday at 2 p.m., 3 weeks after the demise of Toney Weatherspoon, when Jack walked through the front door of the Pentecostal church in Port Maria to pay his last respects to the man he had killed 3 weeks earlier. One of the two men who had killed his father more than 15 years ago was lying in his coffin in front of him. Jack went up close to the coffin and looked at Tony's body for the last time. Jack deliberately went and sat in a seat in front so that he could see all the well-wishers and mobsters who were attending Tony's funeral. Right now, Jack's main interest was to see Tommy walking through the door. 5 minutes after this flaming thought, Jack was overwhelmed as Tommy came strolling in with 10 other members of the syndicate, including their boss, the one they called Mr. Biggs. Jack mussed to himself, "My ship is finally coming into land, and there goes some of my passengers." The service was an inspiring one, with songs, reflections, tributes, and a sermon that concluded with a two-pronged question from the pastor. Are you ready to die? And if you should die tonight, where will you spend eternity? Jack checked his pocket to ensure that all his gadgets were there. Then he looked around to see if the other mobsters were all in their seats. After the church service, the pastor announced that there would be a 15 minutes viewing at the front patio of the church for those who came late and would like to see Tony's body for the last time. Jack was elated for the chance to rub shoulders with Tommy, Mr. Biggs and the other members of his party. He wanted to get up close and personal, to get to know them better, to feel their presence, to grow on them. Jack did not drive his rental, but rather he chartered a taxi for the day, and so, after the viewing, Jack told the taxi driver to stay immediately behind the hearse. He did not want to be too far away from the body of his friend, Tony. Port Maria Cemetery has been taking in dead bodies for over 100 years, and today will be no exception. The cemetery was only 30 minutes slow drive from the church, which will give Jack more than enough time to plant his deadly explosive gadgets in the 2 wreaths that he had ordered for the final disposition of his friend's body. Well, if one fails to explode, the other should fill the gap. Alas! His plan was set in motion, and his vision was filled with explosive intent for his first victim. As Jack sat in the back of the taxi, he planted the gadgets in the wreaths, but they were not set to go off. Not just yet. This will be done when the other flowers are being placed on the casket, before the coffin is let down into the grave. This well-thought-out act was destined to create creative confusion at the graveside. On reaching the cemetery, Jack alighted from the cab, took with him his 2 floral arrangements, and headed for the final resting place of Toney Weatherspoon. Jack was upbeat and at peace with himself. But son, Tony's body will be in pieces, Jack thought to himself. Jack edged his way with his floral arrangements closer to the preacher and stood listening to the final words from the pastor and wiping his eyes. The final moments came as the preacher said, "Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and dust to dust." At that time, several arrangements were rested or thrown on the casket in the grave. Jack skillfully pushed the buttons on his digital watches and carefully placed the 2 floral arrangements on the casket. They would explode exactly in 2 hours' time, at 7 p.m. sharp. There were several songs and choruses sung as the gravediggers and masons concreted the top of the grave to finalize the funeral service. As the people filtered away, they all headed to their transportation that would take them back to their destinations and back to the house that would serve alcoholic beverages, food and drinks for the Thanksgiving celebration for the life of Toney Weatherspoon, all paid for by Mr. Biggs. Jack told the taxi driver that he was so sad for his friend who was killed that he would visit the rum bar close to the cemetery to have a drink with a few family members and friends of the deceased. Jack said to his taxi driver, "You look like a drinking man. Shall we have a drink?" The taxi driver agreed and joined him in his pursuit of refreshment at the bar. Jack had money to burn, and so he was wasting no time in ensuring that his so-called friends got drunk, while forgetting about their return journey to the house where the food and drinking celebration was being held. At 7 p.m. sharp, Jack beckoned to his driver that he was ready to go. Once outside of the bar, they opened the car door to enter, but immediately they heard an enormous explosion down the road at the cemetery. The driver exclaimed, "What the hell was that?" Jack responded, "Who knows, it could be anything." Those explosive watch gadgets were made from a mixture of ammonium nitrite, amatol, and TNT trinitrotoluene, fitted with a bursting charge to cause a shattering effect. Those miniature little darlings worked wonders for Jack's first mission. Jack was excited to see the outcome of the explosion. However, he kept his emotion to himself. He then asked the driver to stop on the roadside at the cemetery. There, he and the driver entered the cemetery compound along with several other persons to see the deadly effect of the blast. Consequently, Toney's grave, coffin, and his body were in complete fragmentation, blown to oblivion, blown to smithereens. Lucky, the family members that were milling around earlier had left the area, and so no one was hurt in the blast. To Jack's delight, his signature was now set in motion. He was destined to write his name across many hearts and burial grounds in the future. It was the beginning of a momentous expeditionary endeavor. But just then, there were several ambulances, police cars, and other motor vehicles and persons coming to see what had taken place. Then, suddenly, there was a thunderstorm with uplift wind components that carried a monster of low-level air, with precipitation rainfall of 4 inches for the next hour, which are not uncommon for Jamaica. Indeed, the storm rain was sailing down like snowflakes on a mountainside, with maximum lightning electrical charges that qualify this natural phenomenon without warning to be a dangerous occurrence. And although these phenomenal cloud-to-ground flashes are usually short-lived and carry high current discharge in the atmosphere, they can send thunderbolts any which way they choose, especially if there are green trees around, which lightning seemed to gravitate toward. Jack ran for cover into the taxi as everyone scrambled to get away from the heavy downpour and from underneath the trees at the cemetery. Thus, every fragment from the explosion was washed away into the gully that runs into the sea. Jack and his driver left the area and drove away in the cool, rainy night, back to his den.